Hi, Kylo Ren.
Hello, Chris Stuckman. I've been waiting for this day for a long time.
I'm just working on my review for The Last Jedi, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, cool. Yeah, Ryan's a good guy, even though his name is spelled a little weird. But again, we all are, so it doesn't matter. So, you ready to die?
I don't care, Kylo. We'll do it. We'll do it right here.
Actually, I have a surprise for you. I'm going to show you the dark side.
Oh, hi, Chris.
Oh, hi, Tommy.
Hey, are you gonna re-review The Room?
Tommy, I'm trying to work on my review of The Last Jedi. You need to stop coming here and asking me what I think of The Room. You know I don't like The Room.
Oh, come on. You're reviewing Last Jedi. Who cares about that? People care about Room, okay?
Okay, I like it. It's good. It's really good, and you made a great film.
Okay, you don't want to review Room. We're gonna play football now, okay?
No, I don't want to play football with you, Tommy. There's a million other sports in the galaxy. Football is not the only sport that's out there.
Ready?
There's other things. Have you ever heard of basketball or baseball? Okay, I guess we're playing football. The Last Jedi is in theaters now, and this is going to be a spoiler-filled review. I'm going to be talking about all different types of plot details. If you didn't see it in the title, please be aware. We're going to get into spoilers here. You've been warned. Thank you so much to my good friend Matthew Brando for portraying Kylo Ren / Tommy Wiseau in that opening skit, Aaron J. Morton for the incredible music, and Kevin Ayat for helping me with the CGI lightsaber effects. You guys are all the MVPs, and I thank you so much. Let's talk about spoilers for The Last Jedi, which I got to see a second time tonight. So like I said in my original review, I had a great time with The Last Jedi, but it wasn't flawless. It had some serious pacing issues in the first act, and some storylines that just didn't work for me. So let's get the negatives out of the way first, and talk about things that I did not like about The Last Jedi, and kind of switched up a little bit, because I talk about all the things I loved already, and I couldn't really get too deep into my negatives because I didn't want to provide any spoilers. There's a fairly solid argument to be made about how much merit a spoiler-free Star Wars review really has anymore, because you have to try so hard to not ruin anything for people, which is very necessary, I think. But sometimes the review itself can suffer as a result. You're basically attempting to traverse an entire review without ruining anything for anybody, and it can be difficult with big movies like this. So let's talk about the Canto Bight sequence of The Last Jedi, because this entire bit should not be in this movie. I said it in my original review, the storyline with Finn and Rose, they go to a place. I didn't want to talk too much about it, but it's sort of this casino world. Like, it just felt like Earth. There were some exotic creatures that were there and some kind of Star Wars-y imagery, but for the most part, it just felt like a casino with a lot of interesting looking folk. And it was like the film halts and becomes this sort of slapstick comedy inside this place. And they have to all of a sudden free these animals, and then there's a message about animal cruelty that's kind of thrown in there. And this entire sequence just doesn't work. In fact, one of my lifelong friends I saw it with tonight, he loves Star Wars just as much as I do, and afterwards he looked over and he was like, I really love that movie, but you know what? I did not like that gambling thing. And I was like, thank you, because it tanks the pacing of the first act. It also introduces Benicio del Toro's character, which I didn't even mention in my original review because nobody really knew too much about what he was playing. He plays sort of a Mac from Kingdom of the Crystal Skull-like character. This guy who betrays people, and sometimes he's on their side, and sometimes he betrays them. It didn't work in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Most things didn't work in that movie. And it doesn't really work here. Del Toro's a great actor, and he does a lot with this character to make him feel unique, and he's a likable presence, but the character just does nothing in this movie. He helps them get there, he's this code breaker they need, but he doesn't really add much of any weight to the story. It's almost like the entire film takes a detour to find this guy, for him to eventually just betray them. In my review, when I said there were sequences that reminded me of the Phantom Menace documentary with Lucas agonizing over the fact that he has included story elements that he can't remove because they're all interconnected, this entire Canto Bight sequence feels like that to me. At least if I was the guy who made this film, I would be sitting there thinking, man, this really shouldn't be here, but we can't take it out because it connects to everything else. It's got to be there. And for the rest of the runtime, you're sort of left wondering what really was the point of that until the final shot of the film when you see this young boy that Rose gave the Rebel Alliance ring to use the Force to get his broom and start sweeping. And then he looks up to the stars. So there's multiple reasons that this could happen. This could be just the message that hope is always going to be there. There's always going to be Force sensitive people. Luke Skywalker, The Last Jedi, isn't The Last Jedi. There's always going to be more, even beyond Rey, or it's leading into something that's going to happen in 9, or it's leading into Rian Johnson's proposed trilogy. So who knows what's going to happen with this little boy, but it is intriguing. So that's easily the aspect of this film that bugged me the most. It feels like it tanks the pacing of the entire picture. It's one of the reasons why I struggle with this and Force Awakens, because a lot of people enjoyed The Force Awakens, a lot of people hated it, and a lot of people loved it. It's one of those strange Star Wars movies where there is no vast majority, because critics really liked it. It has a high rating on IMDb. For the most part, people I talk to like The Force Awakens, but there's plenty of people who don't because it was too similar to other films. With The Last Jedi, it has a lot of similarities to other things. You have Rey being shown the fleet being destroyed. Snoke is like, look at this, the fleet's being destroyed. Harkening back to the Emperor showing Luke the fleet being destroyed in Return of the Jedi. It has a scene with Yoda, which was amazing, and I loved it. It was puppet Yoda. And it was very funny. I loved how Luke was like, oh, it's the ancient texts. I can't believe it. It's the ancient texts and they're gone. And Yoda's like, have you read them? Page turners, they're not. I loved stupid, drunk, hilarious Yoda. I missed that Yoda. We'll talk a little bit more about Yoda and Luke soon. But there are comparisons there. It has Rey finding a deep, dark place where she sees some sort of vision, like in The Empire Strikes Back. Obviously, she's being trained by Luke in a desolate area. There are similarities, as I said in my original review. There's story beats that are similar. But it's tough to ask the 8th film in a franchise to be entirely new. This is definitely a film that has a fresh voice. It's a film that has sequences that we've never seen in a Star Wars film. Excellent direction of lightsaber scenes, for instance. One of my favorites in the entire saga is now this incredible action scene with the Praetorian Guards after Kylo Ren murders Snoke, which I found immensely satisfying. Because Snoke, to me, was one of the weaker elements of The Force Awakens. And here, he's an evil old guy. And in some ways, all of these Snoke theories have basically been proven false because he's kind of a giant red herring, unless they do something with him in 9 or about his backstory, because in reality, he was just sort of a placeholder for Kylo to take hold of the First Order, which I loved, because Adam Driver as Kylo Ren is one of my favorite villains of recent years. His performance is magnetic. This is a fabulous actor. And he gives such a damaged and conflicted portrayal of this character that every time he's on screen, I am just drawn to him. And it's not just the beautiful direction and the fast-paced action of this lightsaber battle that made me enjoy it so much. It's the fact that thematically something is going on. Because you see Kylo kill Snoke, and then you're thinking to yourself, is he going to side with Rey? Are they going to become a team? And there's stuff going on in this battle more than just slicing and dicing. And so you feel kind of more invested in it as a result. And afterwards, you realize that Kylo is hoping to side with Rey and start their own empire. And Rey obviously has different thoughts on this. And so they're still at odds. But they're both working towards each other, trying to get inside each other's heads. Let's talk about the Force in The Last Jedi, because they play with things that they've never really gone into in a Star Wars film before, and I am positive that it will anger Star Wars fans, because there are specific things that happen, like, for instance, the Force connection that Kylo and Rey have, where suddenly they're within each other's environments, and they can feel each other and see each other. And in one case, Kylo actually brings back something from where Rey was. In the rain, he wipes his head, and there's rainwater there on his glove. And that's the first hint that it's possible to physically transfer matter through the Force plane Now, some people aren't going to like this, and they're going to call bullshit on it, because especially at the end, when Luke shows up and fights Kylo Ren, and you realize that he is projecting his image, and he has given Leia that piece of jewelry, those beads that were from the Millennium Falcon, and he has also changed his appearance. His hair is like it used to be; it's shorter, and his hair is darker. He has made himself look younger. He's projecting himself the way Kylo perhaps remembers him, and perhaps the way Leia last saw him. So that's kind of interesting. Why did he do that? Was it to soften the blow of Leia seeing how old and disheveled he is? Was he doing that specifically for her? I think maybe he was. I don't know. I thought it was kind of sweet. Let's talk a little bit about that sequence, because on second viewing, I noticed something pretty awesome that is really good direction. Luke never leaves the red marks underneath the salt. I looked on his feet every single time he moved or slid around. He never leaves, those skid marks of red. Kylo does every single time. That's a really great little thing that Rian Johnson put into this film, and it holds up on second viewing. There's no cheating there. But I think people are really going to be bugged by this because they've never seen the Force used that way. And I'll admit, the first time I saw it, I was a little taken aback. I was kind of like, okay, is this going to be a thing? Like, can Jedi do this? I am perfectly fine with it. I cannot wait for 30 years from now when kids are watching this movie and they don't give a shit about what critics are saying in the year 2017. These kids don't care what I'm saying or what anybody else is saying or any of these complaints that people might have. They're just enjoying this movie and going, wow, Jedi can do that. Okay. Because, like, for us, when I was a kid and I watched Return of the Jedi on VHS, I never questioned things like that. I just accepted it because that was part of canon now. It was part of the world. And I like the fact that this movie has deepened the mythology of the Jedi. It has shown that there are other levels, other things that Jedi can do. I mean, imagine if in Dragon Ball Z, Goku became a Super Saiyan, and after that, that was just it. There's no more exploration. There's no more deepening of the Saiyan mythology. There's no more 2, 3, 4 Super Saiyan God. There should always be more to explore with these stories, especially with one as vast as Star Wars. And I am fine with the introduction of new things the Force can do. This isn't something that bugged me. This is a movie about people who can use this mystical power to lift rocks and stuff. I mean, they even joke about that in this movie. I like the idea that Luke basically uses everything he has left to do this one last-ditch effort, and then he gives himself up to the Force. Or does he? Does he die because of what he did? Is what he did so impossibly difficult that it kills him? Or did he choose to die in this moment and, at peace, gave himself up to the Force? I'm going to say, at peace, he gave himself up to the Force. He Obi-Wan did, so to speak. And I really thought that was really powerful, especially the wide of him looking at the suns, which harkens back to that shot, the beautiful shot in Tatooine and A New Hope. I thought this was a gorgeously directed movie. Let's talk a little bit about Luke Skywalker, because Mark Hamill has very openly said he disagreed with a lot of the choices in the script. For one, the second he takes that lightsaber, he throws it behind him over a cliff. Now, I can genuinely say that I did not expect that at all. There's a lot of things in this film that I didn't expect, and Luke's curmudgeon-y behavior is one of them. Let's talk a little bit about Luke and Yoda. In the prequels, Yoda is this wizardly sage person. He's this presence that's to be respected. People go to him for advice. He seems level-headed. When he loses everything and all of the Jedi are killed in Revenge of the Sith, he goes in hiding for quite some time and kind of becomes a little curmudgeon-y and silly. He still has his Jedi ways about him, as you learn in Empire Strikes Back, but he's totally different all of a sudden. And this isn't just because of the time swapping of when they actually filmed these movies. This is clearly the story George Lucas wanted for Yoda. When it comes to Luke, it's almost the same. Luke was this character who wanted to learn about the Force and believed in it, and he felt hope. But after what happened with Kylo Ren, he said, I can't deal with this anymore. I feel responsible for this. He felt responsible for what he did to his sister and to Han. and he went into exile, just like Yoda, and became a different person, just like Yoda. And this film has a kind of thrilling argument that I've thought about for many years, for the fact that the Jedi don't always do everything so right. And Luke feels like maybe it's time for this to pass because we suck. And I love that because it's unexpected, which is something that a lot of fans have asked for in Star Wars. A lot of fans have asked for the unexpected, and this movie does have a lot of surprises and things that take the series in new, interesting directions. Let's talk a little bit about Leia. We finally, for the very first time, actually get to see her using the Force. She had a connection with Luke in The Empire Strikes Back, and she found him in Cloud City, but here she nearly dies and uses the Force to bring herself back to the ship. People are going to say she's flying. She's not flying. She's basically, I've said this for years, Jedi should be able to fly. If they can control things around them, why shouldn't they be able to control the pressure that basically would float them upwards? If they can float a rock, they should, in some way control the plane around them to allow them to float around a little bit. And obviously they can jump extremely high, so they should be able to float a little bit longer. So I honestly really liked this idea that Leia is slightly more powerful, perhaps more attuned to what she can do. And I gotta say, I have no idea what they're going to do in Episode 9 because at the end of this film, she's on the Millennium Falcon with Rey. I have no idea what they're going to do. I mean, they've said they won't resurrect her with CGI, which I'm very grateful for, but aside from the opening crawl literally saying Princess Leia has died, hope is lost, all they can maybe do is have the knowledge that she's on a ship and the ship blows up or something. I have no idea what they're going to do. It's a very interesting situation, a very unfortunate situation. There's one arc in this film that I thought was pretty unique, and that's Poe's arc. He's a hotshot. He's a flyboy. Laura Dern's character talks about this a lot. How many times in movies have we seen that one character who's running around trying to convince everyone they're doing it wrong and he knows the best way to do it? You guys are doing it wrong. You guys are going to kill us all. You have to listen to me. And that character is always right. You're always on his or her side because they're that lone person that you side with and you know they're right. And they end up doing the right thing and everyone has to go, I'm so sorry. You were right all along. This movie has a very different way of going about this. Poe is positive that what he is saying is right. They need to attack or they need to change their course or something. He's ready to basically take over from Laura Dern in command. And he tries to do a mutiny. But you find out that he was basically going about it the wrong way. There's a great arc with him because in the beginning, he gets in trouble for trying to blow up this dreadnought when Leia tells him to, get out of there. He has this kind of violent side that feels he has to do this now and defy leadership. This comes back later when you realize that there was always a plan and he almost ruined it. And he has to take a step back. And this all comes back into play for him at the end of the film when Luke steps out onto the battlefield and stalls long enough for them to escape. And Poe's the one who realizes this because he realizes in this moment, okay, we don't always have to blow shit up. Sometimes we can stealth this bitch and we can save more lives that way. And I thought that was a really nice arc. Let's talk about a few moments in particular that I really liked. I loved R2 showing Luke the old message of Leia, and Luke was like, that's a cheap shot. Great little callbacks like that serve to deepen a moment or a scene. Not just like, hey, remember this thing? It serves to enliven that moment and create more character emotion. And I really love that. I loved Luke carrying a giant fish that he killed. It reminded me of Goku running away with a big fish after killing it. There's a lot of anime-inspired imagery, and the Jedi are treated almost like samurai. I think there's a lot of inspiration here from Kurosawa and how he directed. There's some beautiful applied shots and some stuff that just really leaps off the screen. And I could be wrong, but I've seen it twice now, and I looked for it the second time. When Kylo has his mask in his hand on the elevator, and he smashes it into the wall, and we see a close-up of the mask for a split second, and I swear it looks like the mask is crushed into Vader's visage. I could be wrong, but it looked like that for a split second to me. So it's really just the Rose and Finn storyline and the Canto Bight stuff. I feel like they should have really shrunk that or found a quicker way to do things and given a lot more time to Luke and Rey on the island. That would have very much so benefited this story, and it would have given more emotion to the Luke and Rey storyline, which I think could also have improved the film. But it almost feels like it had to be in there for that final shot with this boy, because Johnson's planning something with that kid. And it just feels like the biggest detour to have this kid introduced randomly. It just didn't work for the film. And I said in my original review that this sequence on Canto Bight is necessary for you to care about stuff with Finn and Rose later, and that was that she kisses him. And I didn't give a shit. In fact, Finn is about to sacrifice himself, and I thought that moment was so powerful. Her rescuing him and then saying, like, this is how we win, by saving those we love or whatever, instead of fighting. I was like, that's cheesy. That's just cheesy to me. That doesn't, no. Like, if Finn had sacrificed himself, I would have thought it was really powerful. Her blasting in there, it actually kind of ruined the moment a little bit to me. And I didn't feel a thing really emotionally when they kissed. In fact, something I noticed is that I'm pretty sure Finn didn't really either, because he was kind of like, oh, that's, you just kissed me. Okay. I feel like he's a little more thinking about Rey. Yeah, because he wants to immediately, it's the first thing he says, I think that's what he says, is Rey when he wakes up in the pod. And as soon as he sees her, he wants to hug her and embrace her, and he's thinking about her. It's one of the first things he asks is, where's Rey? And I feel like Rose is thinking more about Finn than Finn is her. So there could be a bit of a love triangle thing going on in 9. I hope that's not too insufferable. It's just that Rose-Finn storyline that really tanks the pacing for me. And other than that, I think this is an extremely exciting and unexpected Star Wars movie with a great, unique, original vision and some of the best action of the entire saga. I had a really good time with this movie, and it's positioning characters in a very intriguing way. I love that Kylo's just the unhinged leader now. There's nobody holding him back. I can't wait to see what they do with him in 9. I like the dynamic that they're creating with Rey and Kylo. I think that's one of my favorite things so far in these 2 films. One of the things I promised was that I would tell you what my ranking is now that I've seen it twice. The thing is, this is in some ways a more original film than The Force Awakens. It's a film that sometimes has more powerful and incredible Star Wars moments where the highs are just so high, but The Force Awakens is a better paced film. There's rarely a minute, for me anyway, that drags. This film has about 20 minutes that drag, and so I think I like The Force Awakens a hair more. And so this is my official ranking of all the films. I've included the silly, dumb, CG animated Clone Wars movie in there as well. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. I hope you enjoyed The Last Jedi, and if you didn't, it happens. It's a Star Wars movie. We've all experienced Star Wars movies we didn't quite like. This one, I think, is a different and unique one, and I had a good time with it. It retains a lot of the emotion the first one did, Force Awakens, and I'm glad to see that. Guys, thank you so much, as always, for watching, and if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.